I raised the mic and leveled my breath to the strings. Sconce light cut a thin crown across my cheekbones. At my anniversary party, my husband's mother gave a trash gift to this black woman, and I chose revenge without raising my voice. The room held its inhale. Glass stems froze. A camera stuttered and went still. I set my flute on the walnut ledge, fingers open, so every guest could see I was not clenching anything, least of all anger. 45 minutes until the gift circle. Every place card carried the program line gifts, 9:00 p.m. The mantel clock ticked like it had swallowed a microphone. "We keep our dignity visible," I said under the music. "Say," when Graham murmured from my left shoulder. "Not yet." Vivian breezed past, perfume wrapped in pearls. "Vintage is soulful, darling." Someone fogged a rim and whispered she bold. Carpet swallowed the heels. Lenses lowered, then peered back up. A cough dissolved before it was born. Graham touched my elbow. "I'm here." I said, "I know." Always. The first time I met Vivian was at an Ashford brunch in a room so polished it seemed waxed onto the sun. Linen silver oranges studded with cloves. She smiled at me like I was a reflection on a knife. "You do enunciate," she said, savoring the dew as if grating a paper. Under the table, Graham squeezed my hand. "Say the word." I smiled and didn't. I wrote what mattered. She jokes to humiliate. She uses privacy to tighten the vise. I promised myself a simple rule: make rituals visible. If she brings her theater to me in private, I will turn on the house lights. I arranged the room like a crescent jury, not to accuse but to witness. Elders took the front sofa. Cousins clustered by the baby grand. Donors parked along the bay windows where city light poured itself into their glasses. Staff were visible, not ghosted. We said their names. I nodded to the DJ. The strings softened to a rhythmic hush, so breaths and glass and shoe leather became cues. The house began to listen to itself. I leaned toward the DJ. "Bring the room mix up 2 notches. Keep the strings under conversation." "Copy," he said, sliding a fader. "Mateo," I called, "keep the mantle clear." Just the frame, just the frame." "Understood." I touched the back of a chair. An elder patted my wrist. "Child," she said, "the room is yours." "Only if we share it," I answered. On the mantel, I placed a tarnished silver frame face down, so the price sticker winked a stubborn $2. 50 cents sunk in glue. Mateo caught my eye from the doorway and tipped his chin. He had the rhythm. Graham's jaw loosened. "Say when." "After 9, I said without turning. Vivian drifted through a knot of friends. "Vintage," she tested, then so soulful. A bridesmaid panned her phone closer. "That sticker, though." A little cousin scraped at the edge of the glue with a thumbnail and grinned when it squeaked. Candle flame tilted and straightened as if it too were trying to see. Someone leaned, framed the frame with 2 fingers and clicked. Judgment moved from people to the object under lights. I could feel the room's curiosity gather at the mantel like weather. Before our wedding, a courier delivered a cream folder monogrammed with an A. Inside waited Vivian's decorum rider: "Do not display emotion above 7 of 10. Speak after elders. Keep personal photos off the mantel. Soften your voice in rooms with portraits." I called Graham. He arrived with takeout and the grin of a man who had been waiting to be useful. At the island, he tore the rider neatly in half. "We sign us, not her." We drafted our own vow in coniflower ink: mutual dignity. Plain truth. No theater. He dated it, kissed my knuckles, and slid it into an envelope labeled home. We didn't hang it on a wall. We learned it by heart. I lifted my glass again and thanked the Seabright Foundation nurses volunteering tonight. You hold hands when the machines can't. I named the chef, the bartender, the sound tech. We clapped for people, not pedigrees. Graham stepped forward and tipped the string quartet where everyone could see, not a spectacle as standard. "Chef Lanier, thank you for the rosemary lamb," I said. "Asha for plating, Jonah for sound, Marisol for the floor." "Thank you, Mom," Marisol said, startled to be named. "You're welcome," I answered. Tonight, our applause pays in public. Hands met, the clapping lifted and fell like tide. At 9, I told the room we'll share gift stories. We'll start with the one feeling shy on the mantel. Shy or shameless, a guest grinned. "Gift speak," I said. "We'll listen." Vivian leaned to a friend and stitched a whisper. "Some hostesses narrate because they can't belong." Her friend ventured, "Maybe she's just hosting." "Maybe she's auditioning," Vivian murmured. Without turning, I said, "Hosting is making room for meaning." Her friend said I can live with that. Her friend hummed neither agreement nor dissent. 3 phones swung like small moons and captured the tone. A donor's eyebrow lifted as if it had found a feather where a stone should have been. The clock ticked heavier, suddenly sure of itself. The quartet let the melody exhale. Glass chimed against glass. I brought the mic close and lowered my voice so the room had to lean. Our house measures meaning, I said. Not price. My palm warmed around the stem. The frame remained face down, glinting its unblinking $2.50 like a dare. I smiled into the hush and let the moment settle, not to wound, but to make space for the truth to enter on its own feet. The hush held. I let it ripen into attention, then drew the circle in. Chairs toward the fireplace, I said. A crescent. Everyone will see. At 8:58 p.m. the room shifted. Legs scraped softly. Elders took the sofa. Cousins perched by the baby grand. Donors lined the bay windows. Staff stayed visible. We used their names. Graham stepped half a pace behind my left shoulder and stayed like a promise. I lifted the frame still face down so the gold light bit the stubborn $2.50. Shall we hear its story? I asked. Vivian's smile glittered. Its heritage chic, a piece with soul. Soul travels with people, I said. A teen cousin leaned forward. Then where the people in it? An elder laid her cane across her knees. Let the young host speak. Glasses landed on saucers. A TV went mute. The chandelier hummed like a held breath. I steadied the mic and let the room listen. 2 sentences each, I asked the elders. May peace sit before pride, one said. May truth arrive dressed as kindness, another added. The DJ eased the strings. A cousin smothered a phone alert. Mateo stood by the bay window. The circle breathed and waited. Once I believed subtext could love me. Spencer Harrington and I haunted a second-hand bookstore with a bell that coughed instead of ringing. We kept a shared Baldwin behind the travel essays, our handwriting, twining its margins. On the flyleaf, we wrote a pledge, assume subtext. He loved me, I knew it. But the night his family laughed about marrying up, he studied spines, not my face, as if paper could excuse air. Something inside me closed like a book. In that memory, I asked, will you defend me? Spencer barely breathed. I'll make it easier so you won't need it. Easier meant quieter. Quieter meant gone. I left before I disappeared. I turned the present face up and slid a nail under the sticker. The rip was small but carried. Paper lifted from metal in a slow, gluey sigh. I held the frame at my heart so no one had to bow to see. Inside, a pair of strangers stared through a torn corner and a film of dust. Who are they? I asked. Vivian blinked. A careless clerk, these places, you know. An heirloom with a retail tag, an elder said. Why would an heirloom carry $2.50? I said. Feels recycled, a guest murmured. A child dropped a marker. The quartet cooled by half a degree. A phone lens tightened on the peeled ring of glue. I passed the frame hand to hand, not to shame anyone, but to set the truth where it could be reached. Maybe the tag came later, a guest offered. Then why is the dust older than the polish? I asked. Vivian touched her pearls. It's patina. Authenticity is never pristine. In people, maybe, I said. In tags, it's price. Sincerity slid off the object like light off tarnish. I did not gloat. I stood still and let the room decide what it was seeing. The morning of our wedding, I asked for a picture of Vivian as a new bride to place beside mine so our beginnings could greet. A courier delivered a note, keep personal items off the mantel. Portrait rooms require restraint. The paper was thick enough to be a wall. Graham read it, sighed, and kissed the space between my eyebrows. We filed the note under no and spent the evening putting flowers where the ladies in the portraits could smell them. I told myself then, you keep symbols, not stories. You keep what you can control. Now I thanked the room. For the blessings, I said to the elders. For giving me time. Graham brushed his knuckles against mine. Our sign. I turned my wrist and kissed the ridge of bone. Calm is choreography. At 9:15, I said I'll offer a return gift for Vivian. Not spite, stewardship. A guest whispered, return homes. Remember, I said. Vivian's circle rustled. So performative, she breathed just loud enough for chords to catch. Chairs settled. Mateo checked the mantel clock and noted the time in his small book. 2 donors exchanged a look that meant curiosity. The chandelier released its hum and let silence land. I set the frame on the mantel upright, now the strangers looking out as if they wanted to learn the house. I didn't accuse. I lined up facts the way you align silverware before the course. Between now and then, I said, think of a gift you gave that carried someone else's story, or one you received that asked you to borrow somebody's face. We'll listen after the return. No one moved to leave. Phones shifted from recording to resting. She's doing it without shouting, a cousin whispered. I told you, another said. She doesn't swing. She sets the table. Graham leaned close. Need anything, only your spine, I said. You have it. I nodded. The strings found a warmer key. Someone replenished water. The price sticker lay curled on my palm like a small moon. I pressed it flat against a cocktail napkin and left it there visible. Shall we take 5 minutes? I said. Stretch, greet, refill. We reconvened by the mantel at 9:15. Copy, the DJ said into his headset. 5, Mateo echoed. Vivian adjusted a brooch that did not need adjusting. Don't make a spectacle, she said to no one and everyone. I am making a room, I said, smiling. An elder rose and touched my forearm. Child courage is best used on behalf of truth. Yes, ma'am, I said. People rose and flowed without breaking the crescent. The house remembered how to be a house. Graham gathered the empty glasses at our feet and passed 2 to a server. 9:15, he said. 9:15, I echoed. The frame watched us from the mantel, full of the wrong faces and the right lesson. I felt the old bookstore bell knock once in my chest and go quiet. There would be no easier tonight. There would be only clear. When the 5 minutes ended, the crescent reformed as if the room trusted the curve to hold it. I stood where the listening had put me and touched the mic. Thank you for staying with me, I said. The return will be simple. I didn't look at Vivian. I didn't need to. The clock knew what to do next, and so did I. Before the clock reached 9:15, I walked the crescent instead of the stairs. Not the return yet, the room needed a jury, not a verdict. What memory lives in this? I asked Aunt Leela, touching the locket at her throat. My sister's laughter, she said. It rattles the hinge when I cry. Show me how you hold it. She pressed the oval thumb, trembling into calm. I turned to Mr. Bennett. And these my wife's initials, he said, brushing the silver cuffs. I touched the edges before the hard rooms. A teenager lifted a small enamel charm. My Nana's, she said. I keep it warm. If a thing can't carry love, it will carry dust, I said. Phones lowered. Shoulders unhooked from ears. Someone wiped a cheek and pretended to check a message. I kept moving, letting objects speak into air thick with listening. Vivian's voice threaded the hush. Selah loves performances. A bridesmaid forgetting the room mix breathed or standards. The comment landed and stayed. I did not claim it. I simply gave it room. Graham shifted 1/2 step forward, not to cover me, but to stand with me. His voice was level, public, unhurried. In our home, we honor stories, he said. If a gift carries someone else's story, we return it to its rightful home. Vivian's smile whitened. Graham, this is beneath our name. Graham did something he had never done in public. He interrupted his mother. Our name stands for respect. A donor nodded without meaning to. A girl lowered her phone to listen with her face instead of the screen. Shoes that had been tapping went still. The sentence reset the room's gravity. Thank you, I whispered. A guest whispered back, that's clear. The part of me that used to read subtext for mercy noted how plain words draw better maps. Once with Spencer Harrington, I asked, will you defend me? We were in a bookstore where the bell coughed like an old man, where our handwriting braided in Baldwin's margins. Spencer's answer had been silk without thread. I'll make it easier so you won't need it. I heard what I had ignored. Easier meant quieter. Quieter meant me erasing myself before anyone had to. I chose not to vanish. Love without spine breaks people. Love with clauses holds. I cut back to the present and lifted my voice just enough to keep it ours. I'd like to show you how our house remembers. Mateo, I said, would you bring the ledger? He slipped from the doorway and returned with a leather book the color of tea left on a windowsill. He set it on the mantel table where light could read it with us. Our house keeps memory in ink, I said. I turned pages slowly, so the turning itself made time. Lendings, returns, initials, dates. No scolding, only record. I found the crystal vase entry. Loaned 8 months ago. No return scan. I did not raise an eyebrow. I read. Crystal vase, I said. Loaned. 8 months. An ally from Vivian's circle coughed a laugh. Clerical lag happens. Then we'll close the loop, I said. Graham added, we will. Mateo lifted a pen and waited. I did not nod yet. The room was listening, not writing. The clock ticked louder again, as if it remembered its job. Somewhere a guest swallowed a cough and decided against it. The quartet held a note, then let it fade so the words could stand. I'm curious, a donor said carefully. If an object carries someone else's story, what happens to the story when it returns? It goes home with thanks, I said. And the person who needed a placeholder receives room to place their own. The donor considered that. Better than polishing what was never yours. Exactly. Vivian's friend tried another angle. But etiquette, I said, should protect people, not punish them. A soft hum circled the crescent. The room was not hostile now, it was precise. I closed the ledger and left it visible. We had not accused anyone. We had named a loop and pointed to where it opened. Graham's knuckles brushed mine again. You sure? Yes. Spine check, he said, smiling. Present. Mateo stayed still, pen hovering above the margin, the way a bird hovers over water, waiting for a fish to show. What about the frame? Someone asked, glancing at the strangers propped on the mantel. It will get its truth, I said. At the right time. I stepped toward the mantel so the microphone caught me clean. Between now and then, if anyone wants to share an object that found its way back to its true home tonight, or once upon a time, we'll make room for that story later. Later, a guest echoed, relieved. The room held the plan. It did not thrum with accusation, it hummed with readiness. Pressure settled into attention. I breathed once, slow enough to be shared. We choose clarity, I said. We choose care. The room answered with quiet yeses and nods. Vivian adjusted a bracelet. Long night, she said. Long enough to make something right, I answered. I lifted the frame once more, not to expose, but to remind. The strangers looked out patiently, asking nothing, offering nothing. I set it down again upright, the price sticker flattened beneath a napkin beside it, like a small white moon caught in cloud. Before 9:15, I said one more page. I reopened the ledger, not because the room needed another entry, but because the act of opening anchors courage. Words mean more when they are written where others can read them. Household items I read are borrowed, returned, or replaced. They are not repurposed to make a point at someone else's expense. That seems fair, a cousin said. Merciful, Aunt Leela added. Clear the donor from before concluded. Vivian's lips formed a smile that did not rise to her eyes. We'll see. We will, I said. The clock climbed toward the quarter hour. Mateo, I said, finally note tonight's discussion return protocol to be exercised. He wrote. The nib scratched once, twice, like 2 small doors closing. Thank you for listening, I said to the room. We'll reconvene at the stairs. Not yet the rule, not yet the return, only the promise of both. I faced Graham. He didn't ask what next. He already knew. We're ready, he said. We are, I answered. And the room, having learned the language, waited for the next sentence. If you're still here, hit that like and subscribe because this story, it's only just getting started. We reconvened at the stairs. The room knew how to wait. I led into the marble hall where portraits watched from gilt ovals. I didn't slow. I didn't rush. My voice stayed low enough to require leaning. May we close open loops? Mother Vivian set her hand on the banister. A bit dizzy. Graham angled toward Mateo. Water, please. Mateo passed a glass. Condensation slid. Ice clicked once. Thank you, Vivian said. We'll proceed gently, I answered. A cousin hushed another. Phones dipped. The chandelier hummed. I stepped down one stair so we faced each other without turning the staircase into a stage. Here, I said, we make space for truth without spectacle. She touched her pearls. Truth can be unflattering. It can also be freeing. Her gaze shifted toward the living room, then back. You enjoy this. I enjoy clean air. I lifted the mic only enough to catch me, not her. Shall we? She lifted her chin a fraction. The crowd's weight tipped forward and stilled. I nodded to Mateo. He brought the wrapped cylinder, pale gold paper silk, like a whisper, our monogram faint beneath. He held it as if it were tender. Thank you, I said, taking it. A gift back. Stewardship means a thing finds its true home. Vivian's teeth flashed. This is a setup. A guest near the rail murmured, looks like closure. Graham's hand found the small of my back for 1 second. Well done. I loosened the ribbon. Paper opened. The crystal vase took light and gave it back. I didn't accuse. I turned to the witnesses. This has been on loan, I said, nodding at Mateo's ledger on the landing table. Tonight it goes home. Vivian pressed her lips thin. Such drama over glass. Over promises, I said. Over care. An elder said, return is right. Another elder added, returned my neighbor's ladder last week. Slept better. I extended the vase to Vivian with both palms, as one returns a book to its author. She hesitated, then lifted it carefully, as if the care might burn. Thank you, I said again. The room exhaled. We were not finished. From a tray beside the stairs, I took the tarnished frame. I slid out the strangers and kept them face up, seen not shamed. From my jacket, I drew a photograph Graham and me in sea-bright scrubs, hands speckled with marker hearts from ward kids. Work joy, the plain tenderness of showing up. I slipped it into the frame and turned it to the room. In this house, I said, holding the frame at eye-level, objects must match care. If they don't, they go back. A breath swept the landing. You don't rename Ashford customs, Vivian snapped. Graham didn't raise his voice. Our customs are written together. Hear, hear, someone said. Makes sense, another answered. Farrah Donor added. I passed the frame to Graham. He steadied it, then gave it to Mateo, who set it on the mantel. I offered the tray I had prepared, a white card labeled to their rightful home. Returns tray, I said. As needed. Phones sank. A donor nodded. The quartet found a warm cord and held it. Vivian opened her mouth, then closed it. The portraits looked on. Before anyone tried to rename what we had done, I kept the room moving. Borrow your courage, I said. 1 sentence each. A time you returned something not because you were forced but because you wanted to live lighter. Uncle Jonah raised a hand. Kept a coat too long, he said. Returned it felt taller. Soft laughter. I pointed to the bridesmaid who had whispered standards earlier. I paid my library fine, she said, pink. Small thing, but I felt free. A nurse from Seabright spoke. Gave back a shift I couldn't cover and asked for help. Patient lived because I did. Return is a way of care, I said. Heads tilted. Phones went away. A man in a graphite suit lifted his glass. I apologized for missing a recital. I can't return time, but I returned pride. Thank you, I said. A teen boy said I gave my cousin back his story. I'd been telling it wrong to seem funnier. I stopped. That's the work, I said. A young mother near the rail, I returned a stroller I'd kept, just in case, to the neighbor who needed it. My hallway widened. We filled 2 minutes with small, clean sentences. Practice instead of spectacle. Vivian looked bored on purpose. I refused to supply an exit line. This is not punishment, I said. It's maintenance. A murmur of assent moved the crescent. A memory reached and I let it. When I launched Open Page Labs, Spencer came with compliments, like candy, visionary, magnetic. Graham came with a legal pad. Vendors get paid on time, he said. Writers keep rights. Staff get protections. We won the city grant because he wrote fairness into clauses. No one applauds on stage. Clauses, he told me at the kitchen table, are how we love strangers. Vivian called it new money fuss. I called it a way to guarantee the good. Back on the landing, I kept it plain. We'll be concrete, I said. Borrowed items are borrowed, then returned or replaced. Nothing is repurposed to score points. No applause. Absorption. Anyone else 1 sentence? I asked. A quiet voice from the back. I returned a rumor to its source and left it there. Bless you, Aunt Leela said. The DJ checked his clock and gave me 2 raised fingers. On time. Security at the far doorway adjusted an earpiece. The air shifted the way rooms know names before mouths do. Spencer Harrington appeared with 2 donors and a woman whose pearls announced matriarch before she spoke. He saw the Seabright frame and stopped as if called by his first self. His mouth opened, then closed. Sella, he said, almost a question. Welcome, I said. The matriarch scanned tray ledger faces. She smiled like a lid. How quaint. Domestic courts. I didn't turn fully toward her. I kept the room in my eyes. We hold what we love. No one laughed. No one flinched. Spencer swallowed. Security's gaze drifted and settled. A donor interlaced his fingers and leaned back, done performing neutrality. I ended the confession mic while it was still warm. Thank you for the stories, I said. They will help us remember. I nodded to Mateo. He placed the labeled tray on the console beneath the portraits. He slid the peeled price sticker and the stranger's photo onto it. He didn't look for approval. Graham lifted the Seabright frame from the mantel and set it where the first step meets the landing, so the rule lived where feet decide whether to rise or retreat. Vivian stepped forward, the crystal vase tight in her arm. She pressed her lips together, willing the moment into a pause. Nothing in the room broke. We had made a habit, not a scene. I let my hands rest at my sides. I wasn't finished, but I had said the sentence that could not be unsaid. We proceed, I told the room. And with the rule spoken and the tray ready, the night turned its hinge toward whatever would arrive next. Vivian drew in breath, like she meant to swallow the room. I'm being humiliated in my son's home. Chairs murmured. Two elders traded a tired glance. We'll finish with respect for everyone, I said. Peace matters, an elder added. Then we'll codify peace, I answered. Vivian dabbed at a dry eye. Look what she's made of me. From the bay window, the Harrington matriarch leaned toward a donor. Spectacle, she breathed. Spencer cleared his throat without courage. Sela, maybe let it go. I faced him not unkind. If I let go of the truth, it lets go of us. He whetted a smile that couldn't cut. I'm only trying to make it easier. Easier for whom? No answer, only hands in pockets. Vivian appealed to the portraits. Your ancestors never endured this. Then they endured other things, I said. We're ending one of them. Dignity is quiet, she argued. Dignity is audible, I said. Otherwise, it's permission. Aunt Leela squeezed her cane. Child, you're holding the line. Graham stood beside me, not in front. We're almost there, he said. Almost, I agreed. The room sagged under social fatigue. People wanted release without repair. I felt the tilt and refused it. We will end well, I said, or we won't end. Phones hovered. The quartet stayed soft. The mantel clock blinked toward the half hour. Vivian exhaled a tremor. I never wished you harm. You wished me smaller, I said. I'm returning that wish. Silence held fragile and clean. A heel tapped once, then stopped. Enough, I said gently. Let's bring in air. Who? Vivian snapped. Someone who files clarity for a living. Priya Rayo stepped from the library threshold as if the doorway had invited her. Evening. She held a slim folder, not a gavel. Priya counsels the Ashford Trust, Graham said. She's here to help us finish. Vivian's chin lifted. A lawyer at a party. Priya smiled. I prefer kitchens and tables. But stairs will do. She addressed the room, not just the name. Let's minute a house code of respect, 1 page mutual. Lawyerly theater, Vivian muttered. Provincial, the Harrington matriarch added. Guests overlapped low, and quick clarity helps. Good. About time. Priya uncapped a pen. 4 items return what's borrowed. Speak to not about objects must match care. The host defines ceremony rules. Define match, Vivian said. Care that equals the intimacy asked of the receiver, Priya said. We can attach examples. A donor nodded. I like rules that travel. Great, Priya said. These can leave the house and still work. Who signs? An elder asked. Everyone who lives here, Priya said, and any guest who wants to honor the space they've enjoyed. Overreach, the matriarch sniffed. Participation is voluntary, Priya replied. But the house will still follow it. I breathe easier. I wasn't dragging anyone. I was building lanes. Vivian tried a last angle. You're making our home a boardroom. I shook my head. We're making it breathable. Priya placed the blank sheet on the library table. I'll draft and read it back in 10 minutes. Pens appeared. Chairs scraped as a clearing formed. The air shifted from drama to doing. Thank you, I said. Priya met my eyes. 10 minutes is enough. Once in a negotiation that wanted to break my junior writers, I refused the easy win. They keep authorship credit, I told a boardroom, glazed with patience. The deal teetered. A director sighed, impractical. We closed with the clause and then added a rival essayist to the masthead, so the victory wouldn't turn smug. Mercy inside muscle. Paper turned fairness from hope into habit. I learned to prefer signatures to applause. Can we just move on? Aunt Lila asked, rubbing a knee. We will after we sign, I said. Graham nodded. Hours too. Priya, already writing, didn't look up. 10 minutes is enough. Where an elder asked. The library table, I said. We'll queue by households. I glanced at the clock. It's 9:35. Mateo removed a vase of tulips to clear the center. Servers gathered empty glasses as if they were escorting noise out of the room. The quartet coasted on a single warm chord. Vivian's last weapon time shrunk to seconds. She checked a bracelet that didn't need checking. Her circle waited for me to flinch. I smiled instead. To be clear, I said, this is not revenge. It's repair. Wordplay, the matriarch said. Governance, Priya answered, still writing. A donor whispered to his partner, I'd sign in my house. Same, she said. The room took its place like a line at a neighborhood bakery comm, certain hungry for something simple that belongs to everyone. By the mantel, Spencer lingered alone, hands open. He studied the Seabright photo, the tray, the peeled sticker, a moon pressed flat on paper. His mouth shaped a word that found no air. Sorry. I joined him for one breath. We return what isn't ours, I said. He nodded once. I know. Take care, I said. You too. I let the past step back without slamming it. Behind us, the stair hall waited for signatures, and the kind of quiet that follows good work. We had built the path. The next step would only be walking it. We lined at the library table the way neighbors line for bread, steady, ordinary, sure. Priya spread a single sheet, uncapped her pen, and glanced at the clock. The caterer leaned to me. 10 minutes to staff clock out. Plenty, I said. Read it once, an elder asked. Priya nodded and wrote as she spoke. House Code of Respect. 1 page. Return what's borrowed. Speak to not about. Objects must match care. The host defines ceremony rules. She looked up. Simple on purpose. I faced the room. Respect isn't ceremony. It's a habit with witnesses. Signing means we remember out loud. Pens clicked. Camera lights lowered to a warm hush. The mantel clock softened its tick as if it too was listening. Vivian folded one hand over the other. Define match. See addendum, Priya said, sliding a clipped page forward. Match means care equal to the intimacy demanded of the receiver. Examples attached. Vivian's mouth thinned. She nodded once as if she had chosen it. Elders first, I said. They stepped to the table. A pen scratched, then another, like doors closing softly down a hall. Peers, Priya said. Cousins and friends came forward. A bridesmaid signed and exhaled. Mr. Bennett touched his cufflinks, then wrote his name with a small bow to the page. Vivian stood at last with the crystal vase under one arm. She read each line not to delay, but to be seen reading. I will sign, she said. Graham met her eyes. Thank you for signing. She wrote her name. The loop closed with ink. Graham signed next, steady and clean. He set the pen down with a click, meant for no one and everyone. I waited. I wanted the habit to exist without my signature, and then with it. Your turn, Priya said. I signed last. My name took the space it needed and no more. Marisol from the floor staff raised a timid hand. Can guests sign anyone who wants to honor the space they enjoyed? I said. Her smile broke neat as a dawn line. Then I will. Others followed, donors, cousins, a nurse. Mateo initialed the returns tray as a witness. The page corner lifted in the air conditioning and settled again like a lung. Priya stomped the footer, adopted this night. She stacked the pages, clipped the addendum, and handed me the folder. The room changed temperature without moving. We're finished, I said, and we've only begun. After Open Page's first grant, I bought 2,000 book sets for public schools and sent them without our name. Vivian called it showy humility. I didn't argue. I counted pages, read underlines, made spines bent by small hands that did not need mine in the pictures. Praise is weather, I told Graham. Practice is climate. He kissed my forehead. Then let's live where it lasts. Tonight's calm wasn't borrowed. It was accrued. I picked up the tarnished frame, now holding our Seabright photo, and placed it in Graham's palms. Center it. Yes, ma'am, he said, smiling. He walked to the mantel and set the frame between the twin candles, aligning it with the clock. The ward kids' marker hearts peeped at the edges of our scrubs. Joy looked like work that fit. I slid the stranger's photo and the flattened $2.50 sticker onto the returns tray. The white card read to their rightful home. Mateo lifted the tray, ready to carry it wherever returning required. Before we close, I said a toast. Glasses rose, some were water, some were air. To houses that hold people I said not perform them. To holding the guests answered soft and plural. Applause climbed and settled like tide. Phones lowered all the way. The quartet found a warmer chord and let it bloom. Graham stood beside the mantel and studied the frame as if he were learning our faces for the first time. "Looks right," he said. "Feels right," I answered. Priya slipped the signed code into a transparent stand on the library table. Its title caught the lamplight. Its words didn't need to shout. Vivian stood across from the mantel, the crystal vase shining in her arm. She didn't speak. She looked at the Seabright photo, then at the tray, then at me. Something in her gaze loosened, not surrender, not approval room. I lifted my glass a final inch. "May we keep care audible," I said. "May we send back what doesn't belong and make room for what does." No speeches followed. Just the sound of a house remembering itself, and the quiet relief of rules that could hold. I'm Sela. Tonight's pain wasn't a trash gift. It was the old order that tells a black woman to shrink. I refused. Healing arrived when we signed respect into the room. Love grew a spine. We returned what wasn't ours and made space for what is. If this story held you, tap subscribe, and like it helps this house of stories hold more people. We want to hear from you. When did you choose clarity over quiet? What return would let your home breathe easier? What rule would you write for your table? Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.